pin code. Hollow gods in download mode. I scream in static, breathe in rust, and all I built will turn to dust.
Whoa! What's up, everybody? It's Geek Sheet Radio, and I'm here with Peter Melnick, but we've got a couple of guests with us. One, our good buddy George, Comic Book Click, who's you can always catch me with over on Major Issues. You say hello to everyone, George.
Yeah, hey guys, very, very happy to be here.
And then our special guest, I'm sorry, George. I just feel like George is a guest, but then we also have a special guest. We have the owner, the founder of Headlocked Comics. You've probably seen him at conventions and you don't even know. We were just talking about that off air. Michael Kingston, how you doing, sir?
Running for my life as always. It's how I live.
Yeah.
Understandable. You're actually talking about that. You've got something going on this weekend, right? I think I'd actually like to talk about that right off the bat.
Yeah, it's Free Comic Book Day weekend. I live close to Albany, New York, and I'm going to be appearing at Earthworld, and they just had some ice activity right next to the shop, and so we are doing some fundraising for the West Hill Refugee Welcome Center. So we took our Mikhail Molapola Brody King variant, which is sort of semi behind George there in his background, and we put him on some tote bags with the help of a garment bag company that donated the bags, and we are selling them for $20 to raise money for the West Hill Refugee Welcome Center. I got a couple of the Daniel Warren Johnson books left, so I'll also be selling those, and then just whatever I generate tomorrow, we'll be kicking along to the folks. So just trying to let them know,
I love it. I absolutely love it. I'd love to see what you guys at Headlocked have been doing for this cause over the past few months period. I know the big thing that went viral a couple months ago was the collaboration with you guys and Brody King and Daniel Warren Johnson. And actually, I'm rocking that shirt right. I love Daniel Warren Johnson. I love Brody King. Fuck ice. So it's like, whoa, three strikes. I'm in. I
pretty great.
This.
I guess I'm chopped liver, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well. I thought it goes without speaking. Like you're this specter that brought it all together. The balloon that holds all the water. You know.
I gotta tell you,
you're calling him a balloon?
That's all right. I'm roughly shaped like a balloon. So this is a fun story. A couple weeks ago, I was at Planet Comic Con in Kansas City, and I'd walked past Gabriel Luna at WrestleMania last year on the floor and didn't realize, like, there's no way that was Gabriel Luna. And then I saw him taking pictures. I was like, damn, I missed him. So he was a guest at this show, and I was a guest at the show. So I was talking to him a little bit about, wrestling and stuff, and I gave him some books. And then I was wearing Brody's one of his God's Hate shirts, and he was like, "Oh, what's this shirt?" And I was like, "Oh, it's Brody King's band." And then he's like, "Oh, but I like Brody. He's a good dude." And then we started talking about the campaign and everything, and we raised all this money. And he's like, "Oh, that's so cool." And then the guy that was helping him at the booth, like his con volunteer, lifts up his convention volunteer shirt, and he's got the camo shirt on underneath it. He's like, "I'm wearing it." I'm like, "Holy shit!" So. It was so cool, and I was like, I swear I didn't plan that. Like, I just this was not a setup.
I was gonna ask you about that later, but I mean, since you brought it up, I'm friends with you on social media, so I had kind of seen that you were involved in some WrestleMania weekend activities, and I kind of wanted to ask you, well, not to get into anything you can't get into, but how was it to be involved this weekend, one of the biggest weekends in all of pro wrestling?
It was wild. At one point, I was going to be in the entrance, But I think at one point they were slated to everybody was going to have the same costume, and then they just decided to let. I mean, most of the guys were actual luchadors, and they were going to kind of sneak me in, and then they decided to keep them with their bottoms and their boots, and I don't have gear because I'm not a worker. So but it was cool. I was glad I got to see everybody. Like I'm friends with probably like 3/4 of the roster just because I've been doing this so long, and most of the guys that are on top now were on the indies when I started. Hurricane is probably one of my best friends. Obviously he works there, and AJ, and I know Rhea. I think I was probably the first person to take a picture with Rhea after she won the title, which was kind of neat. I was actually waiting for Danhausen to come out, and then she came through, and she saw me. It was the first time I had seen her, so that was really cool. I've been really, really lucky. Wrestling's been very good to me in a way that comics almost has never been. But wrestling has always taken care of me, treated me like one of their own. It was really, really, it was a very surreal experience. I'd probably been backstage at, I don't know, like 20 Raws. I was backstage at the Stephen Amell SummerSlam. Like, it's a thing that I've done, but I've never seen anything the scope of WrestleMania. Like, it's such a giant undertaking, right? Like, so we were in Allegiant Stadium, which is where the Raiders play, and our locker room was the Raider cheerleader locker room. And then right next to us is Joe Jonas's locker room, which was some other locker room, and they just had signs over it. But like we were in the Raiders cheerleader locker room, which is, here one of the luchadors be like, where's the urinals? You ain't gonna find one. But it was neat. But just it's such a ridiculous operation, right? So like they decide they're doing this entrance, and they bring all these luchadors in, and like we all meet at this parking lot, and then all the little people from Danhausen's entrance are there, and we're all on this bus going down into the building, and I'm like, man, if this ain't the circus, right? Like, literally. So it was cool. I mean, and then like I was on the stage, and I got to see my big dumb face on the WrestleMania Tron, and like Triple H is right there, like 5 feet from me, while he's trying to produce this event, and we're just trying to stay out of the way, and then I see Finn, and I've known Finn for like 10 years, and he's half painted. I was surprised. It was 8 a.m, and he already had his body painted, which was kind of surprising to me. It was cool. I was glad I got to see. I mean, because I've known Danhausen for before the makeup. I mean, I've known him for years and years, and so to be able to be there, and his first WrestleMania was really, really cool. I mean, it was a really cool experience. So this is kind of fun. I'm, not exactly a, I don't know, stylish fellow, as you can imagine. So generally, and I'm warm, right? I'm a warm-bodied dude. Like I shovel my driveway in shorts. Like I don't like to wear pants. So when I realized that I probably wasn't gonna be a part of the entrance, I was like, shit, I'm going backstage at WrestleMania. I probably got to have a shirt with a collar on it, right? And I didn't bring one. I just packed like 5 T-shirts, like I always do when I do shows.
Yeah.
So, I mean, thank God you're in Las Vegas. You can get anything at any time. So, like at 10:30 at night on a Saturday, I'm at like Ross Dress for Less, like on the strip, buying like a $9 shirt with a collar on it. And then like I'm getting texts, like my wife's texting me. She's like, "Are you wearing a collared shirt? Like, where did that come from?" Because people know me, and I'm like, the people are texting me. They're like, "I know you didn't pack that shirt." So it was a very weird night, or weird night day, whatever, surreal experience to see it and be a part of it. The catering is crazy. So
how many Uncrustables are there? Because I hear like it's Uncrustables for days.
I don't think they have them at WrestleMania.
At least the raspberry ones.
The dessert thing is top tier, and I was in the process of trying to manage my weight and my blood sugar a little bit, and then every time I would see somebody, they would force a dessert on me. So like the Steiners were backstage, and I do shows with them like 10 times a year or whatever. So I know Scott really well. He's like, "Oh, did you see this Oreo mousse cheesecake?" And I'm like, "Oh, Jesus," right? Like I got my plate with like chicken and some asparagus, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna do good." And then there's this Oreo mousse cheesecake, and then I see Liz Morgan later on, and she's like, "Oh, I was just coming up here because I thought they said they had banoffee pie," and I'm like, "Oh, shit." And what they
Low,
do,
low key, low key, I know it's con season when I see you post the photos of like the after con desserts, and I'm just like, yep, tis the season.
although I don't know, realistically, con season there's no real con season for me anymore. I mean, I did 32 shows last year, so it's on all the time.
So you start headlocked, right? And how did we get from that to being so involved with the convention community? Or that's the wrong word, but
So, I mean, I'll give you the sort of short thing, right? Like in 2008, I loved wrestling comics, and I felt like wrestling comics sucked. Every time somebody made a wrestling comic, like everybody can tell when something is made for money and something is made for love, right? Like Deadpool is the clearest example, right? They made the Wolverine Origins Deadpool. He's got swords in his hands and his mouth sewn shut. And then, Ryan Reynolds obviously made a character accurate Deadpool because he cared about the character. And you could feel that as a person who loves something, you can feel it, right? So, like, I always felt like wrestling comics were not made by people who loved wrestling. Maybe the artists. I think a lot of the artists like wrestling, but I mean, they were just kind of hacked out for money. And so in my brain, I always kind of knew that there was going to be a market for wrestling comics, and so I wrote the wrestling comic that I wanted to read, which was Headlocked. And it's the story of a theater major who drops out of college to chase his dream of becoming a wrestler. He's navigating sort of the underbelly of the business, and we're examining the craft of wrestling through the eyes of a performance artist. So that was how we started. And I had a pitch for it. I had a business plan, because I was a wrestling fan. I knew where you could sell it to wrestling fans, right? And I just had no idea how dysfunctional the comic book business was at the time. I mean, I'd been reading comics my whole life, but I had no idea how the sausage was made. And boy, that was a rough learning curve. So, I took it to everybody. I got shot down by everybody. I mean, a dude from a very large publisher literally laughed in my face. And I mean, everybody was just like, "Oh, nobody buys wrestling comics. Wrestling fans can't read. Wrestling comics don't sell." Like, I heard the whole spiel. And I was like, "Listen, I'm telling you, I'm a wrestling fan, and we all love comics. Shitty wrestling comics don't sell." But I mean, the idea is, right? Like, if WWE can't make it work, how are you going to make it work? And I'm like, whatever. It's one of those things. It was, in the long run, it was probably the best thing for me, right? Because it made me build something that was strong and stable versus, right, like if, say, like Image picked me up, right, it would have been like Ringside, right? I would have been like 12, 13 issues or whatever, and then it would have been gone, and then I'd be done. So I started selling it out of my backpack at wrestling shows. I worked 2 jobs for an entire year to make enough money to pay for my first print run, some convention tables, some T-shirts or whatever, and then I just started going out and get in front of people. And then the cool thing is that the wrestlers who like comics would buy them from me. And then they were helping signal boost me. And then they wanted to make comics with me, which then begat Tales from the Road. And, it's, and then I got Jerry, I got Jerry Lawler to do my covers. And then I was doing shows with Jerry. I sent him a cold email through his website. Like, I forgot I did it after I did it. It was like 2 a.m. So little backstory. So when my first issue of Headlocked was in previews, I took a week off from work, and I went to every comic book store in 3 states. I talked to every single shop owner. Every single shop owner I talked to knew of multiple wrestling fans or multiple regular customers that were wrestling fans, and then they all proceeded to tell me why they wouldn't carry my book. And then it was very, very, so I was like, I got to do something different, right? Like, so I was like, oh, Jerry Lawler does art. Maybe I'll, so I just sent him an email through his website. Forgot I did it after I did it. And like a week later, I get an email, and he's like, here's my address. Send me some books, let me take a look at them. And I'm like, it's his webmaster or something. It's not him, but it was him, And then I send him to him, and then like maybe a week later, he calls me up, and, if there was a way that you could have faked his voice or whatever, like if that happened to me now, I'd be like, oh, this shit's AI or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, it was his voice, and I talked to him, and he's like, yeah, I'll do covers for you. I mean, he never, all the years, I mean, all the covers he did for me, he would never take any money for it.
Whoa.
He was just, so there's a little backstory to Jerry's career, and some people don't know this, but art is how he got into wrestling. When he was younger in Memphis, he would watch Memphis Wrestling, and he would draw the wrestlers, and he mailed them to the TV studio, and Lance Russell put them on the air, like the drawings, and then they hired him to be like he would draw like things that happened at the house shows, like that were non-televised, almost like a courtroom reporter or whatever. And then eventually, I think Jackie Fargo hired him to draw caricatures of him on his wall at his restaurant, and then he basically begged Jackie Fargo to train him, and then eventually the rest is history, right? Yeah. But if it wasn't for art, right? So, years, and I didn't know this at the time, and years later, Jerry was like, I owe everything to Lance Russell putting my art on TV. And so when I saw your email, I saw this as an opportunity to pay that forward to you. And it was really cool. I mean, it's a really cool thing. That's amazing. I know people have varying opinions on Jerry, but he's done so many things for so many people that so many people would never even know. But like almost everything I have is because he answered a cold email from me. And I mean, he's always looked after me. He's, taken care of me and been super, super good to me. So then we were doing shows, and then that kind of gave me, all the guys who like comics, right? Like Daniels, Kaz, Rob Van Dam, Helms, like these guys have bought my comics. Now, like, hey, let's make some comics. And then I'm doing shows with Jerry, and then that gives me credibility with some people, and it just sort of builds from there. And then I'm doing books with wrestlers, and, I built relationships with showrunners, in a way that probably a lot of people in comics build relationships with editors. And then, so like a lot of the showrunners like what I do. So even though I don't exist in comics, right? Like these guys know what I can bring to a show, and they take care of me, but like the traditional comic book shows don't care about me, and that's fine. I don't care. Like I wouldn't trade my journey for anything. Like I got a shit ton of friends that work in comics, and I'm happier than most of them. I got to work, 10 times as hard to do whatever, but I was just at WrestleMania, backstage, because I write comics in my bedroom that, 99% of the world have never heard of.
You were on the Titantron, and you didn't even need to have a kiss cam for it.
I know. I would have. I got no shame.
It really is. It's got to be one of those. I mean, just being backstage at WrestleMania, or even sometimes just working with some of the people that you get to work with, it's got to be one of those real inner validations that no one can ever take away. Like, everything I've done so far is right. I know that because I'm standing here,
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm just too stubborn to quit,
What's also interesting, though, is that, I also follow you, Comic Book Click follows you, and those pictures backstage are amazing, but every picture that you have taken with talent, they are smiling ear to ear. You've really built a community of friends with the talent, and I wonder if a bit of the grind that has taken you to make Headlock a household name, whether you share that same respect with those out there on the grind on the road. Do you share that kind of kinship of the hustle, putting yourself out there and promoting oneself?
And that's how it started. I mean, when I was on, I was set up at all these indie shows, right? Like, I mean, that's how I did a story with the Young Bucks. They were like, we're on the road every week, and we see you at like 3/4 of the shows we're at. So, I think I definitely earned the respect. A lot of people will be like, yeah, you grind harder than most indie guys. So I think that definitely built some respect with talent. And like I said, I mean, they've always sort of treated me. I've been in locker rooms and stuff, and whatever. Even the carniest dudes look after me. I've had in 15 years, I've had 2 bad experiences. I'm not going to name them, but I've had 2 people. Oh, one was 2 people, and one was 1 person that so took some money out of my pocket with some whatever. But for the most part, I've been super, super, super lucky, and I try never to forget that wrestling's always been so good to me. Like I was probably the only outside vendor that was ever allowed at ROH, and like that was across all of their incarnations. Like when when Gabe was running it, and then when Kerry was running it, and even when even after when it was just who was it? Joe Koff. I can't remember the
Gary Juster.
Yeah, no, I can't remember the company.
Sinclair.
Oh, Sinclair.
Sinclair, right? Yeah, when they were running it, I was still selling stuff there, and I mean, I was the only outside vendor they ever allowed. So, like that stuff to me means so much to me because I'm a fan of wrestling first and foremost, and I have been since I was 8 years old. And so to achieve that level of respect with so many people that I respect, so many creators I respect, like that's the juice more than anything else. Like if you're in comics to get rich, you're doing it wrong, right? Like they'd throw you out of Shark Tank immediately, right? Like high overhead, low price point, right? Like they'd boo you right out of there. But so I mean, I still work a full-time job and I manage a fleet of truck drivers for Target, and so I work. I mean, I was on the road 32 weekends last year. I'm in the middle of 7 projects. I haven't had a day off from my job in 3.5 years, not a day. Like I do it every day. Christmas, I do it. I do it when I do shows. Like after the show, I have to go to my hotel and take care of stuff. But I've got to see the world. I got friends everywhere. I'm respected by creators that I respect. I didn't even get on a plane until my late 20s. I grew up poor as shit. So like at the end of this year, I'm trying to get booked on this show. Alabama and South Carolina are the only 2 states I haven't been to that I'm not, but I'm negotiating bookings for them now. So I'm hoping by the end of the year that I'll be in all 50 states. I got flown to Australia for StarCast. I pet koalas with Bret Hart. Like,
I love that sentence so much.
No one's got that story, right? But me, right? Like, so yeah, I mean,
this koala is safer than Bill Goldberg.
But so the fun part about that is, we're in the enclosure and there was 4 people at a time. So it was me and Bret and his wife and Chris Masters. And so I'm petting this koala, and then Bret comes up and he's petting the koala on the same koala on the other side. And I was like, bro, we're like the Heart Foundation of koala petting. Right? But how cool is that? Like so, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, my life is never boring. My favorite band is Gaslight Anthem, and the bassist wrote a pull quote for my book. Chris Bauer is one of my favorite actors. The Wire is one of my favorite shows. And that, because I work with truck drivers, that second season is my favorite season. And Frank Sabaka was my favorite character on my favorite show. He wrote a foreword to my last book. We're working on a story together for the next one. You know what I mean? Like, I can trade that. I mean, I would take that over writing Batman 100 times out of 100, Yeah. And then, I mean, we raised all that money for Minnesota, like, I mean, no one else is doing that stuff, right? Like, I mean, obviously we raised the money, and now there's, Buckeye's chance at wrestling shows every time because of that. So like, we made money, the message carries, so I'm trying to put good back into the world. I had a pretty high profile charity project that got squashed by TKO, with one of their guys. But I'm working on some other charity projects. I'm working on another thing, hopefully with Brody, and an animal charity thing, I think, with Waltman. So trying to give back, because I feel like, to exist and to have this, enjoy myself while the world is on fire feels kind of unfair. So trying to do what I can to put back into the universe, because the universe has been so good to me.
Yeah, I think that's a telltale sign of a genuine person, and I feel like I guess I'm kind of curious as to how the stuff happens for the fundraiser that you started. Is this something you have an idea and you knew immediately to contact, let's say, a Brody for something like this, or does he contact you first and say, "Hey, listen, we need to do something"? How does that come about?
So we had done the book like when he was in ROH, the actual comic, and then he wore the shirt, and it was cool because, like, I mean, it's really kind of a sad state of affairs, but there's not a lot of people that'll put their name on stuff. There might be people that'll retweet something or say something, but there's not a lot of people that'll put their name on this stuff to the degree that Brody will. Because believe me, I would have had a ton more charity projects going if I could find somebody other than Brody to put his name on stuff, But Brody's a real one, and I appreciate that. And I make my own books, so I don't answer to anybody. So, I feel like I was raised by all women, and you know, my this is my grandmother was divorced. Like, you know, I'm an older dude. You know, I grew up in a small town, right? Like my grandmother was divorced. Like that's not a thing that anybody had, right? I grew up without a father in my life. Like, you know, so my mom was a single mother when, you know, I was probably the only kid in my school with a single mother, and definitely the only kid in my school with a divorced grandmother. You know, so I come from a long line of women who don't take shit. And so I do my best to honor them by, you know, trying to not take shit as well. So yeah, so we had the book done. So I saw Brody wore the shirt, and, you know, the shit was going on in LA. So the Sam Keith one we did in July for San Diego, I was like, oh, let's do a thing. So then we did it. And then I was like, you know, we should do more. And he's like, yeah, I'm down for it. So I hit up Daniel Warren Johnson, and obviously him and Brody are tight or whatever. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So we actually had the piece done, and then we were kind of waiting to put it out. And then when Renee Good got shot, it was funny. I was at the airport. I was going to Hawaii for my 25th wedding anniversary, trip or whatever. And Brody texted me. He goes, we should probably get this going, huh? I was like, yeah, absolutely. So we fired it up, and I mean, I ran that whole campaign while I was in Hawaii. And also while there was a massive snowstorm in the Northeast that I was dealing with for my truck driving stuff. And then, I mean, it blew both of us away how good it was. Like, I mean, I will tell you, like, I mean, I literally just sent the last of the books out this week, like, because there was a whole thing with the printing. Like, my printer messed it up. I drove 30 hours back and forth to Nashville to get my books, and then they were cut wrong, and then they weren't going to be done, so I had to drive back, and then they shipped them to me, and everything was behind, and I had like people in Nashville that were going to help me pack books, so it ended up me packing all those orders individually myself, 100%. I mean, I had to cancel shows. The only reason I went to WrestleMania was because I needed Brody to sign those books, because he's working on a new album with his band, and then he had a friend die and whatever, so we weren't able to connect. But, you know, I just got everything mailed out, but I assure you that I did not, I'm sure I lost a bunch of money doing this, but I would do it 100 times out of 100. Like, I don't care. I mean, it was so much of a bigger undertaking than I ever expected it would be.
Yeah.
Now,
it feels like we're very important. Oh, go ahead, brother.
I was going to say, in regards to the campaign and everything, obviously we are in tumultuous times. We live in very interesting times, and there's both, you know, the good and the bad of things like this going on. How did you react to, like, you know, some of the negative feedback, you know, from some people on the internet with the the fundraising?
Oh, I don't care. I
Good.
give a shit. I mean, honestly, I think there are, you know, I mean, everybody's a person, and everybody's right to their opinions, however trash opinions they may be. But, like, I mean, I'm on the road, you know, this year I've been in half of the states in the country. I talk to people all the time. I'm very open about my opinions and my political views. I mean, I've had political discussions with Kane at shows, you know. I'll mess with them. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's respectful. I'm generally not disrespectful unless somebody says some bigoted shit. Because I also think that, you know, I think that if you want people to come back, right, to, you know, because there's a lot of, obviously, conservative media is very, it's everywhere, right? And the answers are very, very easy, right? What about the troops? What about our homeless vets or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, what about our country? And those answers are very easy if you don't want to deal with stuff, right? So I'm a big white dude. Like, you got to talk to, when you have conversations with people, you can make headway, but you can only do it in like a one-on-one setting. And it can't be a family member, because there's too much shit there, right? Like, you're never going to change a family member's mind, but you also kind of got to be from the tribe, so to speak, right? So I have lots of conversations with because I manage truck drivers, you know, like, I have lots of conversations with people, And I think the best thing you can do is kind of, you know, be educated about stuff and kind of know what's what and be able to, you know, counteract the points and show them, right? Like this isn't true, right? This is a lie. This is, you know, and, you know, you're not going to reach everybody, but you can reach some people and you can at least get them to come back a little bit. Cause I think by and large, you know, outside of the bigoted stuff, we all kind of want the same things, right? Like everybody thinks that there's a billionaire cabal of pedophiles, right? But everybody just thinks it's the guys on the other side. And as it turns out, right, like, you know, we were right? QAnon was right, like whatever, but I don't know. You gotta do the work, right? Like you can't cut people off because like if somebody starts to have doubts, they got to have a place to jump, right? Because if you leave them isolated out there, they're just going to stay out there and double down and double down and double down because their entire existence now sort of hinges on believing this stuff. Yeah. So I try to be respectful. I try to have open dialogue with people. And like I said, I think as a white dude who has respect from some people, I think that my words carry weight with some people. So I think you just have to keep doing it, right? Like it's a war of attrition out there or whatever. And there's so many other things that are counting, you know, there's bots everywhere and all the in media is owned by millionaires and the way they frame stuff is garbage and whatever. But, you know, you just do what you can and, you know, you got to let people, you know, I grew up as a young kid in a small town. Like I didn't have the best attitudes for a long time. Right. And then I saw differently. Right. But if somebody had cut me off when I was like a piece of shit 15-year-old, right, like I wouldn't be who I am now. So I try to give everybody as much grace as possible, unless you're saying some bigoted shit, and then I'm gonna clap back on you.
Yeah. It feels like it feels like a lot of that backlash, which I've seen as well, when it comes to creators who take stances, are the extremely online crowd, and you are boots on the ground. You are walking into, you know, all these cons, talking to all this talent. Do you think that has helped your view on the world and how not to generalize people, because you've talked to so many people from so many different backgrounds, been to so many states, so many time zones and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the people who have never been anywhere are afraid of things, you know, and I think that it's very, very easy to, you know, if you've never met a Muslim, to, you know, to be afraid of them because of how, you know, people talk about them, how they're portrayed in movies and TV and whatever, like, and all that stuff matters. So, I mean, I managed the housekeeping for a hospital, and I mean, you know, I worked with, you know, people from all over the world. You know, and I think when you get down to it, right, like we're all the same. We all want the same things. We all just want to, you know, to live and whatever. And, you know, one of the problems, I think, more than anything else, and maybe I see outside of this because I was raised by all women, but like men aren't big on introspection. They're not big on going back on things. And, you know, America promises that you can be anything that you want, right? Like if you work hard enough. And at some point in your life, if you look in the mirror, you have to have some explanation for why you're not in the NFL, or you haven't followed your dreams, or, you know, you're miserable or whatever. And it's very, very easy to blame other people than it is to take any sort of personal accountability for the state that you're in. And that's tough. You know what I mean? Like but I mean, I definitely, going away to college definitely helped. It definitely helped me see other people's point of views. And then, I mean, I think, you know, social media too, right? Like, you know, there's a lot of things, even me who was raised by all women, like I grew up and I mean, you get the not all men crowd or whatever, right? Like, and you just don't understand. Some people just don't understand what it's like to be a woman. And I'm friends with a ton of cosplayers and female wrestlers and stuff and whatever. And I mean, you know, they're getting multiple dicks every day in their inbox. And, you know, if you've never done that, right, like you don't necessarily understand how prevalent it is, because, I mean, we don't tell those stories either, right? I mean, social media allowed those stories to come out. And if you listen, you know, you can learn a lot about how other people see things and whatever. And I think I was just trying to put myself in other people's shoes And I think about some of the things that happened in my life, you know, when everybody turned me down for my books and stuff. And, you know, I could have gotten real bitter and been one of those, you know, bitter comics dudes or whatever, but I just found a different way to do it. And ultimately, right, like the universe was telling me, right, like, because my book wasn't right for the direct market. And I didn't understand that. And I wasn't ready to hear that. But, you know, you listen, right, like the universe is telling you stuff and you just got to be open to everything. So I try to be open to, you know, this thing happened and it's unfortunate. Maybe this is the universe's way of redirecting me, right? Like I got fired from my job in 2019, a place that I'd worked for 13 years and made a fortune for that company because they brought in a new person. They didn't like how I did things and they just got rid of me. But it was the best thing because the job I have now is remote and I can do more shows and I never would have left, right? Like I never would have left that job, but you know, it was the universe's way of reorienting me. And, you know, it's hard to see stuff like that in the moment sometimes, but I don't know. So I feel like all those different perspectives kind of help me sort of navigate, you know, just all the things that I've done, I think just help me become the person I am, the upbringing that I have and the people that I've met. And, you know, I love meeting people. I love it. I love, you know, and it's very easy to be like, oh, I hate people, you know, you're on social media and be like, all these people, but like, you know, I shake hands with all my Uber drivers. Like, I love connecting with people. I travel on my own all the time. So like everybody who sits next to me on an airplane is somebody new. Right. And I've just met so many cool people and so many nice people. And, you know, maybe some of those people are serial killers and I don't know them well enough. Right. But, you know, I just enjoy, I don't know. I mean, the world ultimately, right? Like the world is a really cool place, and it's hard sometimes when you're stuck in the bubble that prioritizes outrage to see that. But I see beautiful stuff. I experience beautiful stuff every week, everywhere I go. You know, and I just think it's important to try to, you know, mentally you have to keep your head from becoming the algorithm.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've pretty much had a real serious conversation this time around. And I was like, I now feel awkward because I had this plan to do like this fun question, and I was like,
no, by all means,
yeah,
we can do fun questions.
I just wanted to ask because I see you got a collection going on behind you, and I know we're all in the comics, we're on the wrestling, we have our collectors' urges, and things that we're proud of, things that we want to show off. I wanted to ask you, what do you have in your collection right now that you wish you could just show to everybody that walks into the house?
Actually, I just took this down. This is pretty cool. I was at the Survivor Series screw job here.
Wow.
So this was signed by Howard Finkel outside the event. But there's my ticket. With our ticket. So this is the inside of the program. Most of what I have is stuff that matters to me. If you look in the back, I got one of the San Diego Brody Lee figures. I grew up in upstate New York, so like I knew Brody from the very, very beginning of his career. So that
2C Dub.
2CW, one of the most unheralded indie companies that ever exist. But you know, so I have that there. You know, because he was I love that dude, man. He was such a good dude. Never, I mean, I don't know. He should, I mean, not that he wasn't a superstar, but I mean, he could have been one of the biggest dudes ever in like the history of wrestling if they had, you know, if somebody had just thought to use him right. I mean, even just his big rig gear, his big rig thing. I mean, he could promo in a way that I don't think people really ever got a chance to see him. But I mean, he really could have been like the next Steve Austin if they had just had him pull up in a truck and get out and, you know, have his hat on, his shitty wife beater and just fight people, right? Like it's so easy. It's such an easy gimmick, you know what I mean? But sometimes people don't see people for how they are or whatever. But like, yeah, he could have been the best. I have a signed Preacher poster up there. I have a Johnny the Homicidal Maniac poster. I have a little Breaking Bad collection over on the right. What else do I have here? I got a little Randy Savage collection over here, just some small stuff. And then I got some cool art that I get at cons. Over here on this wall, I have a like a Japanese Flash Gordon poster signed by Sam Jones. And one of the weird, like, I have a very weird life. Like, I found out that Hulk Hogan died while I was talking to Sam Jones. like we were at San Diego Comic Con, just sort of having a conversation, and I got a text. I was like, "Oh, Hulk Hogan died." He's like, "Oh," and like, that's just one of those weird things that happens. I have a poster from the last 2 CW show. I have a signed Stan Lee thing. I have a AAA poster up here. It was Chris Jericho's only appearance in AAA that he signed for me. I have that big Art Adams Fantastic Four thing that has like 1,000 characters on it. And then I buy a lot of art from kids. If I see a kid selling art at cons, I have some like monsters up here. I have a BioShock thing that I have. This was the worst. This artist had the guy next to him didn't show up, so he let his kid set up, and so he's doing $5 commissions for video game characters. Awesome. And I was like, "Oh, can you do something from BioShock from me?" And he goes, "Do you have any reference?" He's like, "I'm not familiar with that game." And I'm like, "Oh, fuck, I feel so old." I'm like, "Yo, how are you making me feel old about video games?" Yeah. God damn! But he did it. He did a great little Big Daddy for me or whatever. So, but I try to buy a lot of that stuff. Up here on my writing desk, which I can't turn my computer around, I have figures from a lot of the different wrestlers that I've collaborated with. So there's some Lawler stuff, Hurricane, Gangrel, Vampiro, Danhausen, Samoa Joe, Scott Lost, and then I've had one of those sort of odd things. I've had people make figures of me, which is one of the coolest things ever. That's tight. This thing.
And if you pull the figure or pull the string on the figure, it's just a Bruce Willis clip
with the logo. That's awesome.
So this was actually made by Sin Bodhi. But somebody commissioned. Yeah, he makes LJN figures. It's amazing. He makes custom LJN figures, but somebody commissioned him to make that for me, which is really cool. Somebody made a Funko of me, which is in another room, and I have a bobblehead of me that somebody made, which is in another room. And like, that's the ultimate, like, just the coolest stuff ever, man. I don't know, just, like I said, I'm a guy that makes comics. This is the room where I make all my every Headlocked book was made in this room, and it's I'm just one dude that operates on a scale that he has no business operating on. I've been beyond lucky to see the things I've done, experience the things I've done, and have the life that I had. If it all ended tomorrow, like, I mean, it was good, man. It was good. So
yeah.
So Peter, I know you didn't. I probably talked too much. I was very excited to talk to Mike today, but I don't think you got to ask any questions. What you got anything for us, Peter?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you've had a who's who in the realm of wrestling do shows with you and do stories with you, and who are some, like, past, present, future? Who were some of the ones that you would love to have gotten, and who are the ones you would love to get now?
So I've had the craziest, like, I could write a whole book about my missed opportunities. So Piper was supposed to do a Tales on the Road story with me. And he died 6 days before we could put it together. I had met him at San Diego, and I'd met him a couple of times at different shows, but we had talked at San Diego Comic-Con, and then we were both going to be at Stockton Con, which was in August, and he literally died 6 days before the show. I was supposed to do Ultimate Warrior was supposed to paint a cover for me, which was one of the more surreal experiences in my life. Like, not a lot of people know, but Ultimate Warrior was a painter, and he only painted with a palette knife, and he was amazing. And every wrestler that does art is super, 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 imposter syndrome about it. They're all very just, particularly because Jerry is like the standard, right? And like Bret Hart, I've been trying to get Bret Hart to do something for years, and he's always, and I think a lot of it was he didn't want to have his art in the same book that Jerry did, but it's different art, right? Bret's a cartoonist.
Yeah.
But Ultimate Warrior he was an incredible painter, and so just like Jerry, I had sent him a cold email through his art website, and one day it happened to be on my birthday, the Ultimate Warrior,
Wow.
called me up. He doesn't know it's my birthday, right? He's just like, hey, Mike, this is the Ultimate Warrior. I got your email. And I mean, it's crazy, right? And then he's like, I don't know if I'm the guy for you, but I just wanted to call you, tell you to stay positive about your project. And I'm like, geez, the Ultimate Warrior called me on my birthday to tell me to stay positive. I feel like I'm like 9 years old, right? And and then, we're talking, and he's sort of kind of whatever. And then while he's telling me to stay positive, he gets into an argument with his kids. He's like, I told you, I'll take you to the fucking mall when I get off the phone. And then he goes, I'm going to have to call you back. And then he hung up. And I'm like, I'm never going to hear from him again. This was the end of this. But he did. He, like 10 minutes later, presumably after he got done tearing his kids a new asshole, he called me back up to tell me to stay positive. And then he told me that, he sent me an email saying that, if it would help me get a publishing deal, like I could use his name. But it was definitely written by somebody who sues a lot of people. It was like, you are free to say this, but not this, and whatever. And it was a crazy little thing. But I mean, obviously he died, not too long after that. I was supposed to do some comics with Bray Wyatt. And then he got the call to go back. And then obviously we're not going to do that. I was supposed to have Jade in my last book, and then she went to WWE. I was supposed to have Starks in my last book, and he went to WWE. And sometimes that works out though, because I got to do a story with Naomi in place of Jade, and I did a story with Hobbs in place of Starks. And the Hobbs story is really a lot of fun. The Naomi story was super, super fun. She's a Broadway nerd. So we took Cell Block Tango from Chicago and replaced it from Adulterous Husbands to Shady Promoters. And that was a fun thing to do. I've had all kinds of, Nakamura was going to do a story for me. I'd met him at ROH. Daniels and Kaz had introduced him to me, and I was going to get him to do a story in volume 2. And he's like, yeah, sure, right? And then I'm like, okay. And then that was the year of the Stephen Amell SummerSlam. So I'm going backstage at that show at the Barclays. So I'm standing behind the Barclays Center waiting for Jerry to come get me. And then I look there, and there's Nakamura standing there, waiting for William Regal to come get him. And I was like, oh, I guess we're not doing this. But yeah, I've lost a lot of people. I was supposed to do something with Joe Hendry, and then he ended up going to WWE sooner than he expected. So it's tricky. I always say, like, I'm like these guys make casual little moves and it has a giant effect on me, right? Like, like AEW and WWE are like big monsters fighting in the ocean. I'm just a little dude in a rowboat trying to hold on. So, but yeah, I mean, as far as who I'd love to I'd love to do stuff with just about anybody. I mean, if you've got the right story and if you're a fun person, sometimes I turn down stuff with people because some people just want to do something to glaze themselves. And like, that's not what I'm about, and that's not what I do. I want to do, fun stuff. So, like, I did a story with Jay White that's what if Willy Wonka was a wrestling school and not a chocolate factory, So I just want to have fun and do cool and creative stuff and just jam creatively with people I respect. Like, I'm not looking to, put over somebody or whatever. So, I do turn people down, but yeah, as long as, wrestlers are some of the most creative people I know. And then obviously when you get to comics, right, like it's limitless, right? Like you can do anything on the page. So, it's, I'm always down to collaborate. I'm working on a story with Cross right now that's really, really cool that I think people are really going to like. And then I've got like 4 or 5 things set up that I'm trying to get done now. And everything changes, right? Like, at one point TKO was kind of open to people doing stuff. And then I was going to try to do something with the Uno group, right? Because I had already done something with Claudio and Cole. So I was going to try to do something with Xavier and Breeze. And then I don't think they'd be open to that now. There was a window, but unfortunately, right? Like I'm just one dude. So like, financially, busy, you know what I mean? Like for me to get stuff done is tough. So like I can only move at the pace I can move at, and then obviously the business moves so much faster. You know, it's a lot of people don't know this, but you know, Santos Escobar was supposed to be at New York Comic Con with me. You know, we had it all. He was literally looking for flights when WWE called him back and made like a crazy offer that he had to take.
Yeah.
But I mean, he wasn't going to go. He didn't want to go back. You know, so he was supposed to be a surprise at my panel, and then we were going to do a Tales from the Road book and announce it and have him sign and the whole 9 yards. And then he was literally looking for flights, and they called and they're like, "Oh," and you know, so it's crazy how that worked out. I mean, now that he's back out, hopefully we can make something work. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, man, it's a weird life.
It's an awesome life. I'm not jealous. I'm just kind of admiring it. Like this is, it's so interesting to me how, because I'm people have been saying for a long time, like you should try to talk to Mike Kingston. He's got Headlocked. He does the wrestling. He does the comics. You guys would have a great conversation. And then, you know, life just made it happen. Like the way it happened, and now we're here.
Right.
But just seeing how you kind of started off with this comic journey and ended up with so entrenched in the wrestling business is like, that's freaking inspirational. That's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
It's weird. I mean, it's funny too, because like at the same breath, right? Like I don't get any cred in comics whatsoever from like the people that are just like, you know, direct market folk or whatever. I mean, I wrote some Boom books when Boom had the license. I co-wrote a story with AJ. I co-wrote a story with Joe. But I mean, I brought them to Boom. Like, I kind of get semi-insulted when like people write wrestling comics and they don't ask me, because I mean, I have an audience outside of the direct market. You would think people, you know, I don't get mad about AEW. Like Steve Orlando is one of my best friends. Like I was in his wedding, you know, he likes wrestling because of me. So, I mean, I'm okay with that. But like, I mean, it was very irritating to me that like I had to go to Boom and be like, "Hey, listen, I'm friends with like a bunch of the roster. Like, you want me to, you want Samoa Joe to do a story in your book? You want AJ Styles? Like, I can get this stuff done, you know." And then there's a little known fact that we had done a found footage story, me and Bray, for the Fiend. It was right when the character debuted. It was super, super cool, and they turned it down. They're like, "Oh, we're not making WWE comics right now." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." And they weren't making books or whatever. So like, I don't know, just, it sucks. Cause I mean, Wyndham was a super, super sweet guy. Everything that people say about him. And he was definitely somebody that I wanted to do something with, you know, but they did. I mean, everybody that he's affiliated with is now currently not in WWE. So, I mean, I'm going to be lying if I told you I wasn't going to take a run at that when everybody comes free.
Yeah.
I mean, Loomis did some art for me back in the day. He's done some art for me. I had a charity project with Nikki that kind of got put on the shelf. I know. I mean, I've met Rowan a bunch of times at shows. I think Gacy's the only one I don't know.
Gacy's good people.
Yeah. No, I mean, we have a lot of mutuals. I just haven't, you know, our paths just haven't crossed. And it's weird sometimes how that happens. Like there's people that everybody knows and you know, and they know, and then you just never at the same place at the same time. And he's just one of those guys.
comics is the perfect place to tell the kind of stories they were trying to tell, to the Wyatt supernatural stories. It would have been such a great supplement to what they were doing on screen, because but you know, I don't know. I'm not a businessman, I guess.
So we had pitched this idea of it was like a found footage story with this like a reporter who was like investigating the Fiend, and like the concept was like, you know, Hawaiian shirt Bray, like the Fiend was always inside of him, and like he was directing him into these places, you know, because he lost all his feuds, right? Like so. Yeah. Every time I wrote a story for the WWE comic for Boom, I tried to correct holes in booking. So the idea was that the Fiend had existed in him this whole time and was just putting him into places to weaken him so it could come loose, right? And when the reporter who's figures this out, the lights go off in her apartment, and then you just see on the front lawn, you just see the 2 feet and the lantern, and it was really cool. It was very eerie and whatever, and it was super. And we both were super into it, but yeah, obviously never going to see the light of day. But yeah, I don't know. I had that Cage Fighter movie that Jon Moxley was in. I got hired to write a prequel for that, and I based it on Moxley's character, and it was sort of how a pro wrestler would have the tools to defeat an MMA fighter. And it was this whole story, and it's sort of loosely based on a couple of different. I like to take parts of people's lives and sort of mix them up, right? So it was somewhat based on his stuff with Lesnar, but not entirely. And we had written it, and Tom Nguyen, who designs a lot of Ciampa's gear and stuff, was actually drawing it, and we did like 5 pages or whatever. But then the movie died at the theater because COVID happened, and they had split the distribution. The international distribution was by one company, and the American distribution was from another. And the American company was waiting for theatrical, and then the international people put it up digitally. So it basically killed the theater stuff. But that would have been really, really cool. It would have been, I mean, the whole movie would have been built around Moxley, because he's, I mean, if you ever saw that movie, I mean, he chews up every scene that he's in. And that would have been a fun one. So I don't know. I've got to do a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff that nobody will ever see, but you know.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, I've pretty much taken a lot of your time today, and I know you're very
fine.
busy, man. So thank you for finding a spot for us, my brother. This has been an excellent conversation. I appreciate it so much. And I guess just one more time, if people miss what you were gonna be doing this weekend, we could just let them know where to find you.
Free Comic Book Day, Albany, New York, Earth World Comics. I'll be there. We have these Brody King tote bags that are super, super dope. And we're selling for $20 for the West Hill Refugee Welcome Center. John Hebert did an original piece of art of Captain America beating up an ICE agent. That will be raffled off at the show. So yeah, and I mean, I'll have all my books. I have, I write Vampiro, Rockabilly Apocalypse, which has been picked up for TV development. Friday Night Bigfoot, which I do with Gangrel.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have all my Tales from the Road stuff, our Danhausen variants, all the cool stuff, man, all the good stuff. So if you're in the area, I'll be there from 10 to 3. It's crazy. Like, this is how my life is, though. Like, I'm going to my wife's favorite band is Guster, and they're playing 3 shows in Rhode Island, and I'm gone a lot, so I kind of have to do what I can to, get her what she wants, right? So going to the show on Friday in Rhode Island, then driving home, and then doing Free Comic Book Day, and then driving back 3 hours to Rhode Island to do the shows on Saturday and Sunday, all while I'm doing my regular job. So
Journeyman.
my life is a little crazy all the time, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Hardest working men in comics and wrestling. I love it. Thank you for joining us. George, you can find over on Comic Book Click. You listen to the Major Issues podcast. Peter the Wawa Beaver. You can listen to the Marvelists. Make sure you listen to the Marvelists.
Be sure to check out what's it called? Our Catholic Guilt Daredevil Born Again recap show. We just had this past week JP Sorrow of The Lapsed Fan, who also was the character sensation find of 2026, the dock worker in the most recent episode. So enjoy.
Oh, nice.
And that messed me up this week. I mean,
with Daniel. Oh my God.
I think it's probably not since Oberyn Martell was killed in Game of Thrones did the death of a character affect me so much. Like, that really, really bummed me out. Like, I was like, oh, maybe he shot next to him or whatever. Like,
he's a Skrull. He's still alive.
I loved him.
He did such an incredible job, and like, that's such a tough role to play, to be likable but working for. I mean, it was just the nuance that role required, and I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it really, really bummed me out. That
his dad would have been proud of him.
I'm watching Sopranos with my mom now. Like, she's on season 6 now, and it's like, I had only known of his son acting as Tony Soprano in the prequel film. Like, I'd actually seen his work before this, so I didn't know. I was like, I was not aware of your game, sir.
Oh my God,
tremendous. Yeah, he's good.
I mean, the whole supporting cast, honestly, is great on that show, and that's really the secret sauce for me for that show. Like, I mean, even like Buck is super interesting for a guy who's an assassin, and I mean, like, they've done a really, really good job. Like, I am really, really, really enjoying the season.
Man, I was about to say we were about to do another 20 minutes on
Bro, Breaking Bad. I saw the Breaking Bad stuff. Like we could do another half an hour on Breaking Bad. Let's go.
What about the new Godzilla news?
There you go.
It was originally if we hadn't talked to you today, Mike. I'm sorry, I'm just calling him Mike out of nowhere. We're not that familiar. I apologize. I didn't want to just be like Mike. Like you would just give someone a nickname out of nowhere. I feel like some people just.
Why would you not call me Mike? That's my name.
Oh, yeah, that's cool then. Well, we were like I said, if we hadn't talked to Mike today, we probably would have had to talk about Daredevil. We would have had to talk about the viewership stuff, which was pretty depressing to see the other week. But you can catch us next week, which would be right after the Daredevil finale. So if you haven't finished it by the time you listen to Geek Sheet, then be prepared for some spoilers. And of course, if you're ever interested in just coming on whenever you have the time, like we love to just talk shit about everything that's going on, shoot the shit about whatever's on TV, whatever we're reading right now. The invite is always open to you to join us, my friend.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, this was fun. I'm down for whatever.
Hell yeah! So thank you everyone for joining us today. I appreciate it. If you're listening, thank you for listening. If you're watching, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful night and or day whenever you're watching.
This concludes our broadcast day. Good night, and God bless
The sport of professional wrestling.